My GF cheated with her chemistry teacher, so I exposed them at her final defense. Imagine catching your partner cheating with their professor, then waiting until their big graduation moment to reveal everything. Photos, texts, and all in front of everyone. That's exactly what I did. My girlfriend and I had been together for 3 years. We started dating in our first year of college, both studying at the same university but in different programs. She was majoring in chemistry, aiming for a career in research, while I was in engineering. We shared an apartment off campus, and things were good. Movie nights, cooking together, planning a future. She was always stressed about her grades, especially since her program was tough, but I supported her, helping with flashcards or bringing her coffee during late-night study sessions. Her final exams were coming up, and she was buried in prep, especially for her chemistry project, which was a big deal for her degree. About 2 months before her finals, she started acting different. She'd spend hours at the lab saying she was working on her project with her professor, a guy in his 40s who was known for being strict but brilliant. I didn't think much of it at first. Her program required a lot of lab time, and she'd always been dedicated. But she started coming home later, sometimes after midnight, and she'd be vague about what she was doing. She'd say lab stuff or group work and change the subject. Her phone was always on silent, and she'd angle it away when texting. I noticed she was dressing up more for lab sessions, too. Nicer clothes, a bit of makeup, which wasn't her usual style for long study days. One evening, I decided to surprise her at the lab with takeout since she'd said she'd be there late. The chemistry building was quiet, most students gone for the day. I found her lab room and peeked through the window in the door. She was there, but she wasn't working. She was standing close to her professor, laughing, his hand on her arm. It didn't look like a teacher-student moment. It looked personal. I froze, not sure what to do. They didn't see me, so I stepped back, left the food outside the door, and went home. My mind was racing, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe I'd misread it. Over the next week, I paid closer attention. She was texting someone constantly, smiling at her phone in a way she hadn't with me in a while. One night, when she was in the shower, I glanced at her laptop, which was open on our kitchen table. Her email was up, and I saw a message from her professor with a subject line about project details. The email was short, but it ended with, "Looking forward to our next session." It didn't sound like a normal academic email, too casual, too friendly. I didn't read more, feeling guilty for snooping, but it stuck with me. I started documenting things, not sure why at first. I took screenshots of her calendar, which had late-night lab meetings marked, and noted times she came home. I even walked by the chemistry building a few more times, hoping to catch her leaving. One night, I saw her and the professor walking out together, standing too close, her laughing again. I snapped a quick photo from across the street, my hands shaking. I didn't confront her. I wanted more proof, and part of me hoped I was wrong. Her finals were a month away, and her big project defense was coming up. I decided to stay quiet, keep collecting evidence, and figure out what to do when the time was right. I wasn't sure what my plan was, but I knew I couldn't let it go. After seeing my girlfriend with her professor and finding that email, I was torn between confronting her and waiting for more evidence. I didn't want to believe she was cheating, but the signs were piling up. She was still coming home late, always with excuses about lab work or group study sessions. Her phone was glued to her hand, and she'd turn it face down whenever I was near. I noticed she'd started wearing a necklace I didn't recognize, a small silver pendant with a chemical symbol on it. When I asked about it, she said it was a gift from her study group, but her voice was off, like she was hiding something. I kept my cool, but I was determined to get answers. I stepped up my efforts to document everything. I saved screenshots of her text when she left her phone unlocked once, catching flirty messages with her professor about late-night experiments and extra credit. I also recorded the time she left for the lab and when she got back, noticing they didn't always match her supposed schedule. One evening, I followed her to the chemistry building again, staying out of sight. I saw her go in, but instead of heading to the main lab, she went to a smaller office down the hall. The professor was there, and through the window, I saw them sitting close, her hand on his arm, laughing like before. I took a short video with my phone, keeping it discreet. It wasn't hard proof, but it was enough to confirm my suspicions. I started thinking about what to do with all this. Confronting her at home felt risky. She could deny it, and I'd have no leverage. I considered talking to a friend, but I didn't want it spreading around campus. Her project defense was 3 weeks away, a big presentation in front of the chemistry department and faculty. It was her final step to graduate, and she was spending every day prepping for it. I decided to hold off until then, not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I needed a way to make sure the truth came out cleanly. If I had enough evidence, I could expose what was going on without it being just my word against hers. To get more proof, I checked her laptop again when she was asleep. I found a folder labeled Project Notes with emails between her and the professor. Most were about her project, but some had personal comments, like him saying she was special and deserved extra attention. One email mentioned a dinner they'd had off campus, which she'd never told me about. I saved copies of everything, storing them on a USB drive I kept hidden. I also went back to the chemistry building one more time and caught them leaving together after hours, her wearing that necklace again. I snapped another photo, this time clear enough to show their faces. As the weeks went on, I acted normal at home, even helping her practice her presentation. She didn't suspect I knew anything, which made it easier to keep gathering evidence. I felt bad playing along, but I was too angry to let it slide. I started preparing a plan for her project defense. I wasn't sure exactly what I'd do, but I knew I had photos, videos, and emails that could show everyone what was happening. I wanted to wait until she finished her presentation, let her think she'd made it, before showing the truth. It wasn't about revenge, it was about making sure she and the professor faced the consequences of their actions. I kept everything ready, waiting for the right moment to step in. I spent the week before the defense organizing everything. I transferred the photos and video to a USB drive, along with the emails and text screenshots. I printed hard copies of the most damning evidence, texts where the professor called her special, and an email about their dinner off campus. I labeled each file clearly and made backups on my laptop. I also wrote a short speech, keeping it factual. I'd explain that I'd discovered an inappropriate relationship between a student and professor, present the evidence, and let the university handle it. I didn't want to sound emotional or vindictive, just clear and direct. I tested the USB on a friend's laptop to make sure the files opened properly, and I kept everything locked in a drawer at our apartment where she wouldn't look. The day of the defense, I was nervous but focused. The event was in a lecture hall with about 30 people, chemistry faculty, students, and a few parents. My girlfriend was third to present. She wore a sharp blazer and that necklace, looking confident as she walked through her project on organic synthesis. She nailed it, answering questions from the panel with ease. The audience clapped when she finished, and the head of the department praised her work. I sat in the back waiting for the Q&A session to end. When the professor moderating the event asked if anyone had final comments, I stood up and raised my hand. I walked to the front, USB in hand, and plugged it into the projector laptop. I introduced myself as her boyfriend and said I had evidence of an unethical relationship between her and her supervising professor. The room went silent. I opened the first file, a photo of them leaving the lab together, standing too close. I showed another of them in his office, her hand on his arm. Then I played the 10-second video of them laughing together in the lab after hours. I displayed the text screenshots, zooming in on phrases like extra credit and can't wait to see you. Finally, I showed the email about their dinner, highlighting the date and time she told me she was at a study group. I kept my voice steady, saying this wasn't personal, but about integrity, and that the university needed to know. The professor tried to interrupt, saying this was inappropriate, but the department head told him to sit down. My girlfriend's face was pale. She didn't move from her seat. I finished by saying I had hard copies for the faculty and left the USB with the moderator. I walked out, not waiting for the aftermath. Later that day, a friend who'd been there told me the room erupted after I left. Students whispering, faculty huddling. The defense session ended early and my girlfriend left without speaking to anyone. Within a week, the university launched an investigation. I got a call from the dean's office asking for a statement. I provided the hard copies and explained how I'd found the evidence. My girlfriend moved out of our apartment 2 days after the defense, taking her stuff while I was at class. She didn't leave a note or try to explain. I heard from a mutual friend that she was devastated but didn't deny the relationship. The investigation confirmed the professor had violated university policy by engaging with a student he supervised. He was fired a month later, and his reputation in the department tanked. My girlfriend was expelled for academic misconduct, as the relationship gave her an unfair advantage on her project. She didn't graduate that year and had to reapply to another program elsewhere. I moved on, finishing my degree and cutting contact with her. It wasn't easy. 3 years together left a mark, and I second-guessed myself sometimes, wondering if I should have confronted her privately. But I don't regret it. Letting it slide would have eaten at me, and the professor would have kept his job, maybe doing it again. I learned to trust my instincts and stand up when something's wrong, even if it's messy. Life's calmer now, and I'm glad I didn't stay silent.